Everybody, peace. Welcome to the GSMC College Football Podcast show, brought to you by GSMC Sports Network. As you guys know, I'm your host, Sean Cottle, and we have an amazing show for you today, guys. We got a lot to talk about in the world of college football, and we're going to be discussing some news that's been circling around the college football world, and we're going to do a recap of the Arkansas LSU game as well. That's actually how we're going to start off the show. But before we get into all that, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. That way you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. And be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar, and typing in GSMC Sports Network. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And, excuse me, if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's GSMC Sports Network. It's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network/tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network/tip. None of this is possible as you guys, the fans, and it's just such an honor to have this platform and share it with you guys, and share my knowledge on the wonderful world of college football. So, with that being said, guys, let's get right into it, shall we? As you guys know, LSU pulled off a nail biter against Arkansas, 34-31, in LSU in Baton Rouge. Very exciting game. LSU started off the game slow, only scoring 10 points in the first half. Jaden Daniels started off slow in the first half as well, but came on strong towards the end of the game, scoring 24 points in the second half. Jaden Daniels finished the game with 4 touchdowns, 320 yards, 1 interception, and LSU managed to pull out the victory. But when we did our preview for this game, I talked about how this game wouldn't be particularly close, and I also spoke about how this game could likely, in all likelihood, put Jaden Daniels back on the Heisman watch list, and he did for all intents and purposes, but there were other guys that had amazing games as well, so we'll have to sort for that. But great performance here by LSU, and Arkansas put on a great fight as well. I mean, this is the best game that Arkansas had played all year. I was not expecting them to show up the way that they did. They did a good job in the first half of limiting the passing game of LSU, but they also did a great job of attacking the secondary of LSU. A spot on the defensive end where we all thought would be a positive for LSU. We already know that the front seven for LSU isn't particularly strong, and it's a weak spot for them, but this is where we expected the secondary of LSU to be stronger than what it has been so far this season. This is the second time this year that the secondary struggled. We struggled against Florida State, and the secondary struggled as well against Arkansas. And how that's going to bode for LSU moving forward remains to be seen. But if the front seven is going to continue to struggle, which we expect it to go along with the secondary struggling for LSU, that's going to not bode well for LSU, and they might struggle as they get deeper in SEC play, and they have to face teams like Ole Miss and Texas A&M and even Alabama. So it remains to be seen how that secondary will progress over the course of the season. But it is still a great victory by LSU, and they managed to pull it out. And it was a great game for Jordan Daniels, at least in the second half. And when Jaden Daniels is in rhythm and in fluidity and emotion and in a rhythm, the offense, the entire team for LSU just looks completely different. And it's no question that as Jaden Daniels goes, so does the LSU Tigers, and that's what we've noticed. This team has been up and down, even dating back to last season, and Jaden Daniels' play has been up and down as well. And if the sooner that Jaden Daniels can get consistent game by game, the sooner that LSU can get consistent game by game and start to build fluidity and start to peak at the right time, just like they did last year. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What do you guys think about this LSU Arkansas matchup? What was the biggest takeaway for you guys? And how do you see LSU progressing forward into the season? And do you think the secondary actually has issues or problems, or do you think these are just anomalies? And what can be done to fix the front seven issue, the interior presence of LSU? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. But with that being said, guys, we are going to move on to the next segment of our show. Next segment, we will be discussing who is going to win the SEC West, the wild SEC West. We're going to cover all that and then some, guys, so be sure to stick around. You're not going to miss any of that. We'll be right back. Everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first segment of our show, we recap the matchup between LSU and Arkansas from over the weekend and talk about what LSU can do to improve upon the mistakes that they made and some of the deficiencies that they have shown in the secondary so far during the season. And in this segment, guys, we're going to be discussing, the SEC West and who we think is going to win the SEC West based on what we've seen so far. And before we get into that, though, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to check out the other sports shows on the GSMC Sports Network. The GSMC Baseball Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and GSMC NFL Podcast as well. And so all of our hosts provide great content, and they're some of the best in the world when it comes to the sports that they're covering, and it's an honor to be working alongside some of the best in the business. But with that being said, guys, let's really get right into it. So, SEC West, could argue it's the best division in college football. Not right now, obviously. That belongs to Division Pac-12, but historically speaking, especially the past couple of years, the SEC West has been the best division in football. As you guys know, it consists of Alabama and LSU and Arkansas and Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Auburn. So there's a lot of talent in the SEC West, and the three best teams in the SEC West so far have been LSU, Alabama, and Texas A&M. Not in that order particularly, but those are the three best teams. And the question now becomes, okay, who will win the SEC West? And in the last segment, we discussed the deficiencies that LSU has shown, particularly on the defensive end, and we talked about them offensively. And if Jaden Daniels can be consistent, then they'll be consistent. But they haven't shown consistency offensively. They haven't shown a complete game offensively all year so far. And we talked about Alabama, and we all know the issues they've had at quarterback so far, but Jalen Miro is starting to progress, and the defense is really starting to form and come into their own, and they look extremely efficient. They look potent, and it looks like they're starting to form into the defenses of old. The old Alabama teams pre-2015 that won national championships for them. And we talked about Texas A&M before, a team that, in my opinion, struggles offensively. We talked about the loss they had to Miami, and we talked about whether Jimbo Fisher is on the hot seat right now. And though we do know that Miami is a much better team than we expected coming into the season, it was a loss nonetheless for Texas A&M. And so all of these, none of these teams are complete, which is why the question arises about who will win the SEC West. Because there's not a complete team, each team has deficiencies. You start to think that there's more room for parity in this division. And so I've heard some people say, well, Texas A&M has an outside chance, and they have a legitimate chance. And I've heard people say, well, LSU, they won it last year. They're bringing back key pieces from offense. They look consistent, but they haven't played a complete game, but they look potent offensively. And I heard some people say Alabama. Alabama, they're the historical mainstay, the culture of Alabama, known for winning. The SEC West goes through Alabama, as old adage says, and it's so I've heard cases for all three teams. And if you had to ask me, as of right now, based on what I've seen so far in the first quarter of the season, I would have to go with Alabama. I would have to go with Alabama as the team most likely to win the SEC West. And I say that because of the matchup between Alabama and LSU. Because that matchup will be at home for Alabama, I think that really puts them at an advantage. And I think Alabama has the best defense out of all of these teams. And because of that alone, it gives me enough confidence to say Alabama will win the SEC West. And then we look at offensively, we're looking at an Alabama team that also has not put together a complete game offensively, just like LSU. But what separates them from LSU is their consistency on the defensive end, and particularly their secondary, led by Cooley McKinstry, who, like I said yesterday, might be the best cornerback in college football. And because I don't know how much better defensively the defensive LSU is going to get, because I'm starting to think that the problems with the secondary is really caused by the lack of pressure being caused by the front seven, and that's not an issue they can necessarily fix because it's just lack of talent. So I don't know how much better the defensive LSU can get, but when it comes to Alabama, their defense, like I said, is already locked in and potent. It's like they're starting to form into their own, and they're going to peak at the right time, it seems. But offensively, they're starting to create more RPOs and quick hit passes and run options as opposed to 5-step and 7-step drops for Jalen Milroe, which is going to be more potent for the Alabama offense. It fits more into the scheme, it fits more into the play style of Jalen Milroe and his Alabama offense, and it's going to be more proficient for them. But I know if you look at the average yards per rush, they're only averaging 2.9, and they're not averaging a lot of yards per rush, but they're committing to the run. And if you commit to the run, and we talked about this before, just like in 2015, that Alabama offense with Derrick Henry when he won the Heisman, that team didn't average a lot of yards per rush as well, but they ran the ball so many times. They, even when you commit to the run like that, even when you're not being successful, you're still going to take time off the clock, and it gives more time for your defense to rest. And eventually, if you commit long enough to run, it breaks the defense down. And if Alabama can do that, just like they did against Ole Miss, you might get a low scoring match based on Alabama's previous standards, but it makes you more efficient and you start to impose your will on the opposing team, and that's why I feel Alabama will win the SEC West. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Who do you guys think will win the SEC West between between Alabama, Texas A&M, and LSU? Or will Ole Miss have an outside chance of winning the SEC West? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. But in our next segment, guys, we're going to be discussing some interesting news coming out of college football from the Division III level involving one Miss Haley Van Voorhish. I'll have that full story for you guys coming up in our next segment, so be sure to stick around. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first two segments of our show, we discussed the matchup, or recap the matchup between LSU and Arkansas. And in the second segment, we broke down the SEC West and why I feel like Alabama is still the leading front runner to win that division in the SEC. And in this segment, guys, we're going to be discussing some recent news coming out of Division III football involving Division III player Haley Van Voorhish. But before we get started on that, guys, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content that we post daily. And be sure to follow us on Patreon. You can do so by going to patreon.com, click on the search bar and typing in GSMC Sports. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below at streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. None of this is possible as you guys are fans, so we're just so grateful for all the honor, for the love and support you show us, and it's a privilege to have this platform to share it with you guys. So, that being said, breaking news coming out of Shenandoah University, Division III football, currently part of the ODAC conference, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong about that, one of you guys can correct me. Interesting story. I know Shenandoah University quite well because their school was about maybe an hour and 15 minutes from my school, Southern Virginia University. And we actually played Shenandoah University my junior year of college. And we won that game. But I know Shenandoah quite well. I know the school, great school, amazing school, in a beautiful region of Virginia, that southwest region, a beautiful campus as well. But Shenandoah University, Haley Van Voorhish became the first female non-kicker to participate in a collegiate football game. What I mean by that, so Haley Van Voorhish plays one of the DB. I'm not sure if she's a nickel or a corner, but like I said, she became the first female player to play a non-kicking position in a collegiate football game. The previous women that had played in collegiate games were all kickers, place kickers, but Haley Van Voorhish became the first to play a non-kicking position. And she recorded a QB hurry in the previous game that they played, which is why this story is gaining so much traction and frankly why we're covering it. But very interesting. I was watching the game. I was watching the clip where she got the QB hurry, and at first I couldn't even tell where she was. Couldn't tell who she was. I didn't know what the stat was or what the clip was, and I didn't realize that was Voorhish that had gotten the hurry. And when you watching this clip, I first came watching the clip, I didn't even realize that Haley Van Voorhish was a woman, or because the helmets and pads, you can't see the face, right? So it didn't seem, I couldn't tell. But then as you start to watch that, as I went back and watched the clip, there was a distinguishable size differential between Voorhish and the other players on the team. But very interesting story right here, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this story. Is this the start of something new in college football, or is this safe? Share your thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this, because this is quite an interesting story. I was surprised because honestly it hits a little close to home because I know Shenandoah University so well. I have I have friends that have gone to Shenandoah University. I have friends that played football at Southern Virginia University that played against Shenandoah, in football, and I just I couldn't help think about that. Like, how would my friends have reacted to seeing this news? And it's interesting. Poses a lot of questions, right? But let me know what you guys think in the comment section about this news story. Very interesting to say the least. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up that story real quick, guys, just to shed light on it It was making headlines and making waves in the media. So I want to just touch on it for a little bit. We won't get too deep into it because this isn't the platform for that. But save that for another time. But yeah, like I said, let me know what you guys think. And in our last segment, guys, we're going to be discussing some news involving Shiloh Sanders and what that means for Colorado and their match against USC. So be sure to stick around for all that, guys. We're going to be right back, and you're not going to miss any of it. Alright, welcome back to the final segment of our show. In case you missed the first 3 segments, we discussed the recap of the Arkansas LSU game from this past weekend, and we discussed who we think is going to win the match, or who's going to win the SEC division, SEC West division. I'm sorry. And then most recently, we discussed the news coming out of Shenandoah University, Division III football, involving Haley Van Voorhis, who became the first woman to play a non-kicking position in a collegiate game. And in this final segment, guys, we are going to be discussing some news coming out of Colorado involving Shiloh Sanders and what that means for Colorado in their matchup against USC this upcoming weekend. So, as guys, if you haven't heard, guys, Shiloh Sanders is his status of availability for his upcoming match against USC is in question due to an undisclosed injury he received during the game against Oregon this past weekend. And according to his brother, Deion Sanders Jr., Shiloh was actually urinating blood after the game and needed to be taken to the ER. And currently his status is unknown, but Sanders Jr. has stated that he's getting better, and his status remains to be seen for the game against USC. But what does that mean for USC, right? So, and if losing Sanders for Colorado and doing so, you lose your best defensive back, and that would be a major hit for a defense that already has struggled throughout the course of the season. But like I said, the secondary is not the biggest issue for Colorado. Like I've said so far throughout the entire season, it's their interior on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. That's where the issue comes in for Colorado. And losing Shiloh Sanders, yes, will hurt Colorado, but it won't be the biggest reason that they lose. If they were to lose against USC. And I just wanted to cover that news for you guys and talk about it, discuss it. I don't know what you guys think. Do you think if Shiloh Sanders is not able to play this weekend, is that a major blow for Colorado? And is it something that they can overcome? Or even with Shiloh Sanders, do you think Colorado has a chance of upsetting USC? We know this is a USC team that has struggled defensively, but offensively they are potent as usual, as we expected, led by best player in college football, Caleb Williams. But we don't know the official injury for Shiloh Sanders, but knowing what I know about the medical field and injuries, those symptoms that he has, very akin to either a kidney injury or a liver injury that he might sustain. But I would assume something with the kidney. That's my first thought. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Especially if you're versed in that medical field. But knowing what I know, I would say it's something with the kidney. But yeah, guys, that's all we have for our show for today. Quick show today. I know it's quick segments, but just wanted to just cover some quick points with you guys. We'll be back again tomorrow, doing our your guys' favorite segment of the week. We know way too early Heisman list. It is Wednesday, so we'll cover that. And if you haven't already, guys, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that like button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content. Be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork/tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork/tip. None of this is possible if you guys are fans, so it's an honor to have this platform with you guys. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out our other shows. Check out the GSMC Baseball Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and GSMC NFL Podcast as well. All of our hosts provide great insight and coverage on the sports that they're covering, and it's an honor to work with them and share this platform with them because they are some of the best in the business when it comes to sports media personalities. And that's all we have for today, guys. We will be back again, same time tomorrow, 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until then, continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and until next time, guys, peace.